Hello and welcome to a Smaulgld update on the gold-backed yuan game changer. Well, the gold-backed yuan without the gold launched this week. Let's take a look what happened. Well, gold was down during the week. The dollar was up as gold's game changer launched, and the dollar hegemoned higher. Now, why do I have this sarcastic tone in my voice? Well, because we heard so much about the gold game changer from the initial gold-backed yuan story back in September of 2017. We heard in the Nikkei Asian Review that China was going to back the yuan and seek a new world order, which was going to end dollar hegemony. And then when it was pointed out that it made absolutely no sense that China would back its yuan with gold, they'd run out of gold pretty quickly, and also the fact that China has a massive debt Ponzi scheme going on, the narrative changed to that China was going to have this yuan-denominated oil futures contract, and they were going to allow participants to swap out their yuan and convert it into gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. We heard that from Jim Rickards. We heard that from many of the commentators hyping the fact that China had a built-in answer for anyone who didn't want to accept the yuan. All they had to do was walk over to the Shanghai Gold Exchange, and then they would get their gold. And then it was going to be game over for the dollar. Well, then it turned out people realized that China does not allow gold to leave the country, and also that the contract drafts said nothing about any exchangeability of the yuan on the Shanghai Gold Exchange for gold. Well, then the story changed to, well, oil producers are going to take this contract up in such great numbers, and then they're going to swap the yuan for gold. Well, wait, they can't swap it for gold, but what they're going to do then is they're going to go out and buy gold on the open market, and that's going to create massive gold demand, and that was gold's game changer, according to Mike Maloney. This whole idea that oil producers, fresh with their yuan, they were going to go out and buy gold. The foolishness of that is that, first of all, oil producers can go out and buy gold with their dollars if they so chose. Why would they then want to take the yuan and go buy gold? And the idea was, well, the yuan, they didn't want to hold that. Okay, so then how is the yuan going to be anything of an international currency if nobody wants it, and the first thing they do when they get it is dump it for gold? So that didn't happen either. And as I said all along, when the story first came out in September, in October, was that the only thing we knew about was that there was going to be a yuan-denominated oil's future contract. All this nonsense about gold backing, gold exchangeable, creating gold demand, none of it had any basis in reality, and yet we saw countless pumps, and they moved from one pump to the next. They just changed the story to finally, once it became apparent, and once it actually was announced that it was only a oil's futures contract denominated in yuan, which is all it ever was, that still became a pump. That became Petro Yuan, and now it's still game over for the dollar and a game changer for gold, because now China is exercising massive demand over the gold market, and everyone's going to buy their oil in yuan. This never was a story that was of any major significance. It was significant to note it that China was going to do a yuan-denominated oil's futures contract, but it was never meant to be a game changer. It was going to launch by year-end. Remember, then it was going to be game over, and gold was set to skyrocket. Same thing when finally it was launched during the week. Remember, it was launched this past week. It is a part-time exchange. It's not even open many hours during the day. It's just getting off the ground. It's nothing to scoff at, meaning that it is an attempt to internationalize the yuan, but it is not an attempt to internationalize gold. So I followed this whole game changer story, and the reason I did it, and the reason I followed it and reminded people of it constantly, is because I knew that the gold pumpers would push this story until they couldn't push it, and when they realized, well, they can't push the gold backing part, well, now we're going to push the gold exchangeable part. Well, we can't push the gold exchangeable part because gold can't leave China, so we'll push the It's going to create massive gold demand. Well, if there's no massive gold demand, well, it's going to create massive demand for the yuan, because now people are going to buy all their oil with yuan. People forget that the United States also exports a lot of oil to China, so maybe they have to have dollars there too. Let's just take a look at what happened. So once the gold-backed yuan, or actually the yuan-denominated oil futures contract was launched, I wrote, so everyone who bought a yuan-denominated oil futures contract last night is going to buy gold once they realize the contract is not gold-backed or exchangeable for gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. And no one who had been pumping this story about gold-backed or gold exchangeable said a peep. All they did was switch to the pump about this is now a new game changer because we now have a yuan-denominated oil futures contract. You can follow. Now, what I did, I was very clear on this. Back in October, I published on October 8th, the gold-backed yuan story forks again as more cracks appear in the story. I went through how the story was nonsense and how the pumpers themselves were switching the story. Then I went to here comes the gold-backed yuan a week later without the gold. Then the story changed again to, oh, no, we never said gold back. We never said gold exchangeable. We said create gold demand. Curious case of the gold-backed yuan just got curiouser. All these on Smaulgld. And then finally I topped it off with the end of October, why it's going to take years to internationalize the Chinese yuan. So my point in all this is that all these Sun Tzu, dollar collapse, COMEX default, sovereign size, gold buy in 45, whatever they are, these stories you have to follow up. You have to do your own research. I must have seen at least on a dozen channels this gold-backed yuan, gold exchangeable, game changer, and those YouTube videos get tens and hundreds of thousands of views. People believing it, wanting to believe it. You'll see game changer, death of the dollar, end of dollar hegemony, China's doing this and China's doing that. Gold-backed yuan without the gold. There it is. Game changer for gold. Probably 100,000 people saw that. Thousands liked it. It was the game changer. Yep, 10 minutes until the most monumental story of our time unfolds. I was following the minutes until this contract was launched. It was going to shock the world, and it was going to rock global markets. China's grand plan, gold 20,000. I was watching that night and just sitting witness to history as the dollar collapsed. These markets had not grasped the monumental importance of the yuan-denominated part-time oils futures contract. Few understand, and that's what's keeping the price of gold down tonight. See, only the people who follow this nonsense thought this was like a huge deal for gold, and they're scratching their heads wondering, why didn't gold skyrocket? Well, now they're saying, oh, it's going to take time for people to go, like the participants in the contract, to get their gold. And then once they do, it's going to skyrocket. So this story will stay for a while. There's still some legs to it because there's still a yuan-denominated dollar-crushing end of dollar hegemony contract out there. But once, if nothing happens from that, they'll be on to some other gold pump, and I will follow that one up directly. If it's true, then I will point out where it's true. If it's false, I'm going to do the same thing. So here, Chai Girl points out that this is very important, that the contracts on the yuan-denominated oil futures contract, she trades oil, so she knows what she actually looks at the source documents. Notice, no Saudi Arabia contract. That was one of the big components. Game over. China's going to launch the petro yuan, and Saudi Arabia is going to buy all their oil in yuan, and that's going to be game over and game changer for the dollar. And there you go. Just to note, none of these contracts is for Saudi Arabia. Here we go. Death of the dollar. China launches petro yuan. But again, no one managed to talk about the original. They never backpedaled. Well, some people did. Their original story that it was gold backed and gold exchangeable. It's not there. There is no gold backing. There is no gold exchangeable. And I don't see any people buy or contracts being bought and then immediately deciding they're going to go out and buy gold with it and create massive gold demand. So We'll wait and see what happens. So far, I've seen nothing to indicate that this is anything but a baby step. And you can check this out, why it's going to take years to internationalize the Chinese yuan. They have capital controls on the yuan. They also have looming over their heads the massive internal debt, and they have the issue that they could devalue the yuan at any time. Thank you very much for listening.